Good afternoon, everyone, and a beautiful day to say the least, and a great day to be announcing a Supreme Court judge that was here. I know I just got word that the Attorney General's here, and you're at there. Hey, thank you for coming over. Thanks for coming over. So let me first start off by saying we're here today to introduce who we have chosen to be Missouri's next Supreme Court judge, and announce another historic appointment for our administration. The three nominees we received made up one of the most qualified Supreme Court panels I could have imagined. And with this panel, I was in a unique position as each of the nominees I have been able to interview and get to know in the past, because each of them were our picks to fill the Court of Appeals seats they currently serve in. Believe me when I tell you this decision was not an easy one and has been one of the most difficult picks I've been tasked with. And as somebody who has appointed 5 statewide office holders and filled over 135 judicial vacancies, more than any governor in our state's history, that's saying something. It is quite clear to me that each candidate has a public servant's heart, and each would make a fine Supreme Court judge. This Supreme Court of Missouri serves a critical role in maintaining our system of justice, upholding the law, and protecting both the Missouri and the United States Constitution. And appointing someone to serve on our state's highest court and in such a central role to the functioning of our democracy is not something that I take lightly. Today, I am proud to name Judge Kelly Broniec as the newest member of the Supreme Court. Not only is Judge Broniec an exceptional jurist, but she's even a better person. One thing that stood out to me about Judge Broniec is her work ethic. Like so many of us, she came from humble beginnings. She worked all through high school and college to pave her own way. She worked hard, worked her way up, and now I know she'll work even harder for the people of the state of Missouri in our state's highest court. Judge Broniec is a proud woman of faith who shows great dedication to her family, church, and community. Her experience and perspective ensures that she will be a balanced and fair judge. And we are confident that her appointment will help reshape and strengthen the Missouri Supreme Court and our judicial system as a whole. Judge Broniec was elected Montgomery County prosecutor in 1999 and served in that role till she was appointed to an associate circuit judge for Montgomery County in 2006 by then Governor Matt Blunt. And in 2020, I had the privilege of appointing her to the Eastern District Court of Appeals. Throughout her career, Judge Broniec has always been a strong advocate for families, and even more so for our Missouri children. She has fought for stability in children's lives, helped improve Missouri's foster care system, and helped establish a family treatment court in Warren County. Her passion for Missouri kids is something I share, and why I'm confident she will be an exceptional judge. Her record shows that she is a fair enforcer of the law, interprets the law as written, and leaves legislating to the General Assembly. We look forward to her successful tenure on our state's highest court for years to come. Now, I am happy to be joined by Judge Broniec, as well as her husband Mark and daughters Katie and Hannah, here with us today. Judge Broniec.
Governor Parson, thank you. Thank you for this tremendous opportunity to serve on the Supreme Court. of this great state that I love, and I know you do too. Being appointed to the Supreme Court of Missouri, while it is a dream come true, it also brings great responsibility. Governor, I pledge to you and to the citizens of Missouri that I understand that my responsibility as a member of the court is to decide the important cases that come before the court conscientiously, promptly, and consistently with the law as written. And I will do my best to bring common sense, practicality, and respect for the rule of law to my work at the court, along with the important values of humility, kindness, and hard work that I learned from my grandparents, Ray and Dot Schwenker, who raised my sister and I, and who I know are looking down proudly today. I'm thankful to Governor Parson and to his great staff, and I look forward to serving the citizens in this new role. Thank you.
I believe this is the most amount of women to ever serve on the Missouri Supreme Court. Correct me, Governor, if I'm wrong. But what does it feel like to be able to reach that milestone with you joining the Missouri Supreme Court, that now there are 4 women, for now I understand, that will be on the state's highest court?
It's a very special opportunity for me and for the court. I come from a small town, and to have this opportunity to serve on the court with 3 other women, and knowing that it's, will be one of only 11 states in the country to have a majority women on the state's highest court is quite an honor.
All right, any other questions for the judge?
Anybody else?
David?
Okay.
This is just a very practical thing, but for the judge or the governor, when does this begin? When would you be taking the bench?
I will be in consultation with the Chief Justice Russell to determine a swearing-in date, but I expect it to be soon. It has to be within 30 days, so yes.
I'd like to ask about something the governor mentioned. He said that you're somebody who will leave legislating to the legislature. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think my history and my rulings on the trial bench and the appellate bench show that I believe in the 3 branches of government and the duties entrusted to each of the branches of government from our Constitution. And so, I will not be attempting to make laws. I will interpret them and apply them to the facts in each case, and determining if there were prejudicial legal errors made in the cases that come before us.
Governor, this is one of 2 vacancies that you'll be able to fill on the Supreme Court this year. How has that shaped your thinking in deciding who to choose this time around?
Let me do this. Is there any other questions for the judge? Then I'll come up and I'll answer your questions.
Emily, final question.
That way we're not going back and forth.
My question for you, Judge, is during some of the interviews that I was over there for, the big question that came from the committee was, what, in 30 years, if you had to look back on your time in the Missouri Supreme Court, what difference do you want to make, or what do you want to be known for? How did you answer that question during your interview?
In my interview, my response was that I wanted to be known for a judge that was a good judge in serving the citizens of the state that followed the law. I don't have any, I think that is what judges should be known for. However, I've served on a lot of the Supreme Court committees, and obviously child welfare is one of my big interests, and so I hope to be involved in some of the committees that affect child welfare as well.
Judge, you're currently Chief Judge of the Eastern District, and you've got at least one other vacancy that'll be going. This will be the second one. Can you talk about the transition that the court will undergo over the next month or so?
Yes. The court will need to meet, the Eastern District Court and Bank will meet and elect a successor judge to serve as its chief judge. to take over when I leave the Eastern District and assume my duties at the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Judge. Governor
Thank
Parson.
you.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
All right, questions now?
Yes, can you talk about this being one of 2 Supreme Court vacancies this year? Can you talk about how that shaped your thinking and who to choose and what your thoughts are for the next one that's coming down the pike very shortly?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. Kind of goes back with some of the other questions that were asked a little earlier. You know, look, I just want good qualified people to be on the bench, especially in the Supreme Court, because these are appointments that are going to be long-term. They're going to affect generations after my generation. And I want to make sure we put people on there, one, that interprets the law, that reads the law, and enforces it like it is. I think one of the things, and I think over the picking a lot of these judges I've picked, it's not always about politics by no means. It's about who really knows it and who will go in there and read the law, enforce the law the way it is written, not on their opinions. And I think that's one of the things you look at, and I look at judges that I feel like will do that, and that they'll be fair to Missouri citizens regardless where they come from.
I have a two-pronged question for you.
Sure.
My first one has to do with appointing another woman to the Missouri Supreme Court, now having 4 women on the state's highest court, and I'll let you answer that first.
Yeah, well, let me just say that, because that comes up sometimes. I know when Judge Ransom was picked about who she was and where she came from. It really has nothing to do with the picks. You got to win. You got to be the most qualified candidate in my eyes at the end of the day, because I can get all the input from a lot of different people, but at the end of the day, I have to decide who I think is the best candidate. And again, you have some outstanding people. When you make a 3-person panel out of everybody in the state of Missouri, you're a little bit of a class of your own to make it that far. So, and then you come down to those 3, and it was just a tough decision. I would like to I guess I would like to say sometimes, yeah, I did it because the judge is a lady, but the truth of it is it's not. I picked her because of her background, where she come from, and who she is. And so if all those chips fall into place and there's more women on the court, there'll be more women on the court. But they gotta earn their way to it. I'm not giving it to them.
I believe it was during the Missouri State Fair that you talked about possibly having a judge, one of the vacancies filling with someone from southern Missouri, because there's not a lot of representation from southern Missouri on the state's highest court. She is from the St. Louis area, the Eastern District. Why did you pick someone from the St. Louis area instead of going to southern Missouri?
Yeah, well, she's not exactly from St. Louis. She's on the outskirts of St. Louis a little bit, but they can take credit if they want to take credit. You know, look, there's no question, as governor, I would love to pick somebody from southwest Missouri. I mean, that's where I'm from, and there's been a long time since we've had a Supreme Court judge from that area. I got one more chance at that. I don't know who they're going to send me in this next panel, but at the end of the day, it's still about getting the right person in that position. Again, it's one of the most difficult challenges. We had a lady from southwest Missouri on that panel, was, my gosh, extremely talented. I hope I see her name again, to be right honest about it, and I believe I will. However, you know, you still have to pick what you think is the best person at the best time. So we'll see. We're going to have another pick here in a couple of months, so we'll see how this all shakes out.
All right, David.
Governor, I want to ask you a question about the veto session that's tomorrow. It is tomorrow. You had line item vetoes for quite a few things in the budget. I'm sure there will be an attempt by someone in the House to override some of those.
Sure.
Tell me why you think those should all be upheld.
Well, I think what you said is a two-way street, where you said I vetoed quite a few things. There was quite a few things in the budget, more than normal, that was in there. I don't know what the House will do. You know, I believe there was plenty of things in the budget for everybody to consider they got to win with, that we're doing the right things for Missouri. But I have to look at things beyond one House district or one Senate district. I have to look at what's best for the state moving forward. I think the things we did are things that can be talked about this year to see what those priorities might be. But at some point, you know, everything can't be a priority. And we have to make a decision of what things are going to look like, not just for my term, but what's that thing look like for the next governor? What's it look like for the next legislators who are coming in? So you got to be practical about it. It was a big budget last year.
We were at a point where there was a lot of money going around. Do your line item vetoes indicate that we're returning to a point where we need to be concerned about how much money we have?
Well, I think nature of me is always going to be concerned about how much money we have, and what are the long-term goals of the state, and how does it benefit the people of the state long-term? You know, there's lots of things. Sometimes we can do combination of things. We can combine efforts to just having a project in different areas of the state. Maybe we want to have one major project for everything. I think doing I-70, for example, I know that's a big item that was in the budget, but the reality of it is that's going to help generations and generations, more than any one probably small thing that we could do in these districts. Look, the legislators have been good to work with both sides of the aisle since I've been governor. You know, I'm not going to make them happy of all the decisions I make, but I think if they will look at the big picture, they'll realize that we're trying to do the best thing for the state of Missouri. So my plan is to make sure this state stays as feasible as we can, and we stay in the right place for years to come.
All right, final question, Greg.
Governor, we are a little bit more than 2 days away from a possible auto workers strike. I'm wondering what kind of sort of communication you've had with the parties involved, and what your message is for some of the state's largest employers.
Yeah. We've not had much connections with that. As anything, we always hope those things get settled between the companies and the workers, because anytime a strike, no matter where it is, it creates issues within the state and for people at workforce. And it's always been a priority of mine is the workforce, so I want people working. So hopefully, if I was to get involved, which I am not at this point, you know, I'm going to encourage people to try to sit at a table and figure out a solution.
All right, thank you, Governor.
All right,
Judge.
thanks. Thank you. Judge?